Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello. For the next half hour, we are going to be talking about marine life and conserving and protecting it, especially about the life at the Manhattan Beach, California's Roundhouse Aquarium and their coastal bottlenose dolphin project with my guest, Eric Martin. He is the head aquarist at the aquarium and is a marine mammal biologist who has also been a professional photographer and an educator at Marineland. He received the award from the American Meteorologist Society for non-formal educator that educates about environment, weather, and animals. He is also a member of the American Cetacean Society and many other organizations. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi there. I'm happy to be here, actually.
You are responsible for the care, treatment, study, and education of the public for many different kinds of marine life at your aquarium. Could you tell us how many different species you have, how many different individuals, what's involved in conserving and protecting them?
That's a big question. Yes, first of all, the last time we actually counted, we do have like a little over possibly 1,200 different animals. Now, in your mind, you're thinking, wow, how can you fit all those 1,200 animals in the Roundhouse Aquarium, which is a very small aquarium, probably one of the smallest, most advanced aquariums in the world. So most of you people are probably thinking, all this is fish. We do have a lot of different kinds of fish. We have 3 different species of shark, which is basically, no, not the great white, not the tigers, not the bulls. Those need open water to basically swim and stay healthy. We have sharks like horned sharks, leopard sharks, and swell sharks. Those guys basically swim a little bit, lay down on the ground a little bit, find a rock, relax. They're like nocturnal animals. So these animals, we can actually have and learn and teach about them in captivity. One of our largest tanks we actually have there is a 3,300-gallon tank, and that we call it our either shark tank or kelp tank because it does have a lot of kelp in it to simulate a kelp forest. But we also have other animals in there, like, yes, I'm going to name him Sheldon. Sheldon is our 20-year-old male sheephead. Now, if you guys don't know what a sheephead is, it's a fish that is basically tricolored. It's black in the front. These are the males. Black in the front, red in the middle, black on the tails. They have a giant bump on the top of their head. They belong to something called the wrasse family. What do they basically do with that giant hump as well as their small canine teeth? They basically keep the kelp forests in order. They love to eat sea urchins. They love to eat crabs and lobsters. Those of you know about kelp forests, we have an overabundance population of sea urchins, and I'm not going to get into that part. That's because Southern California has a lack of sea otters who also eats sea urchins. How
do you know that that animal is 20 years old?
That's because I caught him. So I caught him as a little baby, and we watched. I'm going to use the word her because the sheephead is one of these animals that are born as a female, and as they get larger, they basically, not all of them, some of them will turn into males to keep the population going. We have had Sheldon, the sheephead, for 20 years, and that's why it took him 3 years to just change. That was one of the biggest mysteries. How long does it take for a sheephead to change? And I can actually say that because we monitored it.
You do a lot of studies both in your aquarium as well in the wild. Of course, nobody wants to see dolphins in captivity, so you go out and do a study project in our oceans off of the coast of Los Angeles?
Yes, I do, and it's called the Roundhouse Aquarium Coastal Bottlenose Project Study. Basically, how this got formed starts way back when I was a wee little kid. I actually used to work at Marineland up in Palos Verdes, and I was an educator there for students that were up there, and that was like kind of like my first little field training of animals, and I didn't know basically a whole lot back in the time. back in the 80s with that. So I just volunteered up there and then became a top educator up there and then started working in the animal care, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where I actually came upon my first wild bottlenose dolphins, because we never used to have the bottlenose dolphins down here in basically Santa Monica Bay. And it didn't happen until 1983 when one of the big El Niños hit, warmed up the water, and they moved up into our area. And eventually throughout the years, they kept on moving up more and more and more. Now there's off and on sporadic sightings all the way up into Washington.
There are many species of dolphins in the world. I think we find the 5 here in Southern California. Do they have the scientific names or the common names? Do we use both? What are they?
I tend to use the common names because some of the names people won't relate to. So I'm basically going to say we have the coastal bottlenose, we have the offshore bottlenose, we have the Pacific white-sided dolphin, we have the common dolphin, and we have the rhesus dolphin. Those are basically the 5 I can just name straight off.
Cetacea is a scientific category for dolphins and whales. We have some here in Southern California. How many are there in the world?
Wow. A student just asked me this. There's about 300 to 400 different kinds of cetaceans out there.
With so many, is there a different research group in other parts of the world studying each and every one, or is there a lot more information that we have to learn?
Well, I'm going to answer this in 2 different ways. Yes, there are people all over the world that are studying all of these different species of animals. Some animals that we thought were the same, they decided there's different kinds or close to species of the same kind, but they are different species. But then we also have, believe it or not, when the waters get warmer, we have what we call striped dolphins, and those are like pelagic warm water dolphins, so they can start coming in here. When the waters get extra colder, we also have something called harbor porpoise. When I hear the word porpoise, they still belong to the toothed whale family, and they also belong to the dolphin family. And then we also have the largest of the dolphin family. If anybody could have guessed that, yes, we have the orcas, the killer whales. And we have those coming in here, and actually that's what sparked my interest. It was October 28, 1984, 9 o'clock in the morning. I was walking into Marineland, and this one guy who was doing whale census, counting gray whales going by Marineland. At that point, I didn't really see a lot of gray whales, and I didn't really know how they looked at the time. But that person was coming through the gate, and I go, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "Orcas." I go, "Orcas out here?" And I go, "Where are you heading?" And he goes, "I'm going to a friend's boat." I invited myself, and we were on a 14-foot inflatable boat tracking down these 3 wild killer whales that were going by the Palos Verdes Peninsula, and we tracked them down. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had tears in my eyes. I didn't know I was laughing, serious, whatever, and I had my camera out there with me. The big male came in right under our boat. He's right under the boat. He's right under the boat, and I'm standing up, and the guy who owned the boat basically said, "Sit down, Eric. You're going to tip us all over." That was the beginning of everything. That was the beginning of me joining the American Cetacean Society. That was the beginning of me wanting to know more out of the water. Then my dad gave me his little 14-foot little runabout boat, which is basically a fiberglass boat with a 40-horse engine in the back, and I wanted to know what was out there. So every single weekend, I would be going out and out and out, and even today, I still go out and explore. So that's what got me into cetaceans, dolphins, what's out there, and the Killer Whale Project.
You have so many exciting stories, and like you, it's hard to forget our first encounter in the wild with wild animals, whether or not it's here in Southern California, for me, mountain lions, or in Africa with all the big 5 and all the other species, but all over the world there are incredible animals. But we have so much here in California, even with the development of millions of people living on the land, our marine life is incredible. I remember the first time I saw the humpback whale on their migration from Alaska to Mexico. You go out there, as you say, practically every week. You don't want to just be in the aquarium. You want to see these animals in the wild and see what they're doing, how they're doing. So let's talk about some of those encounters, because surfers obviously encounter the marine life. You're a marine scientist. You're encountering it. Are you learning anything from the people who are sitting out there on their surfboards?
Well, let's put it this way. when you are around animals the whole time and you see matriarchal societies, how families should work, how they treat each other in the ocean, how there's babysitting with dolphins and orcas and sperm whales, and you take the humpback whale, how they protect their young, how now the humpback whales are actually, instead of we look at them, they seek out people. And there's so many interesting stories and so many ways we can learn from them. And by doing this for all these years, there's a lot of lessons us humans can actually learn from watching these animals. Let's put it this way. You moms out there, you get kind of like crazy with your kids, and you sometimes just need a break. I know in Native American culture, one of my best friends is a Native American, Shumash, and knowing their culture back then, they always lived in a community. That community would always help out. If it's kids, if it's the elderly, anything like that. So if you take that into toothed whale societies, where from sperm whale to the bottlenose dolphin, a lot of these animals live in these major matriarch societies. Take elephants, same thing. So when I was getting to that, it was basically if the mom needs a break, there's never really going on, hey, calling somebody and somebody's going to say, no, I can't do this or whatever. I've actually seen, I don't know dolphin language, but they just basically will pass it off to an older sister, or it could be an aunt. It could be people who study like the orcas and consistently like that. It could be an uncle, and any family member in the pod will babysit for hours and stuff. So I have actually witnessed this one mom, bottlenose dolphin mom, has a baby of her own. She ended up babysitting 2 young ones for over an hour.
Maybe one day we'll be able to talk their language, and I hear that they are quite intelligent. We could learn a lot from them, probably, why they love to surf, play, do some of the other activities, because every time I go out for a whale watch trip, might not see the whales, but you see the dolphins.
Yeah, so dolphins like to play. Of course, as a professor, you're going to say, well, how do you know it's playing? If we get off the books of professors and everything, you just observe these guys, they look like they're really having fun. They're jumping in front of you. They're bow riding in front of you. I've had a dolphin actually turn on its side, look directly at you, and start trying to communicate things out of the blowhole, because that's how they speak. Through that, they don't speak out of their mouth because they push air back and forth, and that's what creates some of the language. Signature whistles, what some of the researchers call them. Actually, we actually know each dolphin has a signature whistle, which what we would call it a name. There's actually a lot of communication with that. And we also say, why do they like to surf? This is one thing what I encountered from one of my, this special coastal bottlenose dolphin that I've been studying for the past 4 years. Her name is Scully, and I just want to talk a little bit about Scully. Scully is a coastal bottlenose dolphin that has scoliosis. And so if you guys don't know out there what scoliosis is, it's basically a deformity of the spinal cord. And sometimes they don't live long through that. There are actual footage of a bottlenose dolphin that has scoliosis that was basically adopted from a sperm whale family, and as of today I'm still thinking it's alive. I personally never saw this. I've seen footage on YouTube from the researchers who follow this, but what I can tell you with Scully is, by following her for the last 4 years, I never thought that she was able to have a calf of her own. A couple years ago, I saw her come through, and she always swims next to somebody. Like I said, I've only been studying these for quite not that long, or you have to study them for like 20, 30 years to get a family structure going, and I'm getting somewhat of this happening, but I'm going to guess this could be a grandma. It could be Scully's mom, because they always are together. One day, Scully was just laying there at the surface, and I thought not doing too good because I never thought that she could be pregnant. I got video drone of this and everything, so I got a little nervous, didn't tell anybody, and 2 weeks after that, she came by again with basically almost like a 2-day-old young calf, and she came by the pier. I got the drone up, and she brought that calf right into, it wasn't a big wave, but it was probably like, I'm going to say a 4-foot wave, and she took that calf with the help of, like I said, the grandma, her mom, and she was teaching it how to surf, how to go into the surf and everything, and it was an awe moment for me on that one. So Scully would just go back and forth, and I don't know what happens to the babies if they show up a lot. This, what we call is family group 3. This one shows up off and on, not all the time. 2 of our other family groups years. We see them more often than this one. I didn't see her for about almost a year and a half. Part of the family would go by, but not her. And then actually about 3 weeks ago, there was a few dolphins that were coming by. I always like to follow the babies. The babies just make me laugh, puts a smile on my face, and I get to see the interaction between the other members of the family and the babies and watch them grow up as much as I can. And to my surprise, there was Scully again, swimming next to the same mom or grandma, and a little surprise, it was about a 5-week-old little calf, and I was in awe. Not only did I actually get to see Scully again and the baby, I got to see Scully actually nurse. So here you have an animal with a deformity that other animals are actually helping it. She can get pregnant, she can help the family out reproducing, and just watching them just grow up like that just puts awe in me, and kind of like put that into humans, kind of like characterizing that, and I just wish the human society can treat each other like that.
Fantastic stories, and you have so many. I want to hear more about your encounters with marine life and what you're doing to find out more about them when we return in a moment with my guest, Eric Martin, with the Roundhouse Aquarium.
Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman continues with further discussion of the world's critical ecological issues. For more information, you may call 310-559-9160 or go to www.ecoprojects.org. Now, here's Nancy.
I'm speaking with Eric Martin, who is the head aquarist at the Roundhouse Aquarium in Manhattan Beach. You're at the end of the pier. You want people to come. This is a nonprofit organization. You mentioned earlier you have practically 1,200 animals. They come and go. They live for many different periods of time, depending on what species they are. People do enjoy seeing wildlife, but is it okay to have them in a captive setting?
That is a great, great question. So for somebody who loves animals a lot, and I did work in a marine park, some people might think, oh, this guy likes animals that are in a tank. You know, you learn a lot from that. First of all, dolphins, any kind of marine mammal, that era should be gone. Super highly intelligent animals, animals that swim over 100 miles a day, animals that depend on each other. Orcas, we know now, live easy into the 70s and longer. We know bottlenose dolphins, by studying these animals, you get to keep on following each of these animals longer and longer and longer, and then you start realizing, wow, these guys live as long as humans. They can easily live in their 60s and 70s. So, and now we're finding out that fish, sharks, especially the Greenland shark, which is a part of a seven-gill shark, they're finding out they can live 300 years old, rockfish, etc., etc. So that's a great question. So our aquarium, we basically have a lot of invertebrates. Invertebrates are animals without backbones. They live in tide pools. We know the kind of range, what they swim in, and most of them don't swim. They just kind of like blob around with suction cup feet, things like that. So the animals we have in the aquarium, basically, if you take a fish like a Garibaldi, which is the California ocean state fish, if you take the Garibaldis are territorial. They don't swim throughout the whole oceans hundreds of miles in a day. They basically have their little territory right in front of the rock. They might go out 20 feet here, 50 feet here. They come back, whatever. They're nice and happy with that stuff. Believe it or not, sheephead, like Sheldon, who started off small, now it's like a really big fish, that's his territory. That tank, he grew up in that tank. That is his tank. Sheephead in the wild are very, very, very territorial. If you get into their area, if you dive underwater, they will follow you. They will hide behind a piece of giant kelp. They'll be keep an eye on you. If you put like a foot somewhere and you aren't watching it, they will grab your flipper and move it out of the way. So the animals like what we have, jellyfish and stuff like that, lobsters, they don't have a range like that. Like if you go to some of these large aquariums and they have whale sharks, I can guarantee you these people that have these whale sharks that can get into the 40-foot range do not do well. They cannot live out their whole lifespan, which is easily over 100 years into that. So the animals we have basically live in small areas. They're small animals. Like I said, we have all these hundreds of animals in there, thousands. The smallest one is like hermit crabs, or what we call amphipods, which are basically things that live on kelp. That's all what they do is live on kelp. I'm going to put it this way. Some animals we can learn from. from in captivity in fish, and some animals we can't, like dolphins, great white sharks, anything that's a pelagic animal that grows big. Black sea bass. I know some aquariums have them because black sea bass live in their areas, but yet they do migrate. If an aquarium has a giant black sea bass, they better have like a 1,000,000-gallon tank to keep it alive because that's what they need.
I'm so pleased to hear that you recognize which animals are okay in a captive setting and which animals need to be in the wild. What is an aquarist, and what do you really do at the aquarium?
An aquarist is somebody that keeps all the marine life alive, which means you have to deal with life support. So when you deal with life support, so you have to simulate the ocean, what makes it work. Basically what we're doing is simulating the ocean. We have to make sure the chemistry is proper in the tanks as it would be in the ocean. So we do things for water changes. We clean gravel. As we feed the fish, we put vitamins in the fish food. It's like if you would eat hamburgers every single day, you know what's going to happen. First it's going to be good, and then it's not good for you. So we have to supplement their food with vitamins. Even though we alter different kinds of food for them, it still is not the same. Basically, an aquarist is somebody to make sure the animal stays alive and healthy in any way possible.
What is the easiest animal to take care of and the hardest?
Ooh, great question. The easiest animals to take care of is basically in tide pool animals, because tide pool animals can handle shifting in temperatures and shifting in salinity, because when the tide goes down, evaporation comes in and it makes the water more saltier before the water starts coming in again. I would say tide pool animals are one of the easiest. In our oceans out here, there's a couple animals that are really difficult, and one of them happens to be the giant black sea bass, and another one, your eyes are going to open up. We do have a seahorse out here called the Pacific seahorse. It's mainly down around wetland areas and estuaries. I've seen them in LA Harbor, Newport, Back Bay, wetlands in San Diego, and when it does get warmed up, like right now as we speak, the water temperature is 75 degrees, which is as warm as Hawaii, which is not good.
How important are wetlands?
That's a great question. Basically, wetlands are supposed to do to Mother Earth is they are the filter system what comes down the mountain from rainstorms and everything like that. When you go to a wetland, that's why it smells. It smells like anaerobic mud. And eventually, all the runoff goes into the wetlands, and through different kinds of bacteria, it goes into the anaerobic mud and eventually filters out into the ocean. And the wetlands are basically Mother Earth's natural filter system.
Very important. Do you ever try to breed endangered and rare species and reintroduce them into the wild?
We would like to if we had the equipment. Some aquariums actually have a nursery place, the nursery grounds to do that they have nursery tanks. Some of them are doing it with seahorses. The only thing what we have done and what we still will do if we see a hurt or injured fish that were caught from a fisherman, we've done it quite a few times. Somebody one time caught a angel shark, which is a very beautiful shark, and they gaffed it. It was about a 4-footer, and we brought it in, healed it up very gently with a giant net, put it back in the ocean. We've done it with other sharks too. We kind of like that we're able to do it that way with injured fish. We've released black sea bass that fishermen have caught, and if they would have just thrown them off the pier, because black sea bass are very delicate, so we made sure they were fine, and then we lowered them back down in the water again. So we've done quite a few fish like that.
One of the things that you must be encountering is the horrible pollution. Plastic pollution is terrible in the ocean. You also must be able to see the interaction of marine life with some of the other life that uses the ocean, like bird life, birds and raptors and other animals that have the connection in the wetlands. And of course the plants, we definitely need to restore our kelp beds. That's a major issue because they've been destroyed. Our wetlands in Southern California have been terribly destroyed, so we have very few left. What do you suggest that people do to enjoy the animals and plants and also to protect them?
That's a whole other podcast. I can talk hours with it because it's a very sensitive subject for me. Is that here's something about studying animals no matter where you go. When you study the animals, you just don't study the animal. You study the environment. You study the whole ecosystem, how it works. And then once you start seeing how the the ecosystem works, then you start witnessing the devastation from pollution, anything that us humans would cause, and how fragile this ecosystem is and how it can collapse at any moment, which we have. I mean, it's that simple. So that's one thing what the animals have shown me, and I bring all the knowledge, what I see, to educating the kids at the Roundhouse Aquarium by the photos, the stories. Kids and students alone love to hear stories. I mean, when I talk about animals, sometimes I just don't want to talk about, hey, this is A23, this is J2. These are like numbers of orcas and stuff. You want to hear animals, hey, this is Granny, this is Scully, oh, this is Cat's Paw, the humpback whale. So when you tell these stories, you put names behind certain things. These are names not that I just made up. These names are actually out there, a book of catalog of these animals that have numbers and names. So once you start putting a name behind something, now it starts to mean something. When I'm out there on my boat, one thing what really, really drives me up a wall, besides all the other plastic pollution out there, is balloons. I really wish we could do something about the balloons, because out in the ocean, balloons, one of the number one causes of marine life death. Anywhere from our bird life out here to the fish to all the cetaceans out there. And when animals do come up on shore that are basically like squid feeders, we have beaked whales that are squid feeders. We have a dolphin out there called Risso's dolphin, which are squid feeders. And let's talk about the giant sperm whale. Yes, I don't know if everybody knew this. We have sperm whales that actually regular our coastline out here. And people don't realize that. And when a sperm whale comes up dead on the beach, they are actually finding 200-300 pounds of plastic garbage in their stomachs, anywhere from balloons to buoys to partial net traps that are down there.
That's horrible.
Yeah, and it gets me very, very upset on it. And the only thing what I can do is I can pick it up, but I shoot lots of photos. And by shooting photos, and since we teach almost every single day at the aquarium, showing these photos to the students actually makes their jaw drop. Okay, I'm not going to be affecting everybody, but I'm going to be affecting some people. Or when I see a bird that's wrapped in, well, actually just what happened last week, a bird was wrapped in fishing line. It was a seagull, and it had to get unwrapped. That's almost an everyday occurrence here on the pier with people with their fishing line. You can go fish. I love fishing. I do it myself, but just take care of the stuff. Whatever us humans do as an action in their life, there is a reaction that's going to happen, if it's good or it's bad.
Fantastic information, and you have so much more to share. The stories that you have, the information that you and the volunteers who staff your aquarium share with visitors, and people can also volunteer. They can go out with you and help with some of these research projects. It's so important. So what is the website? How do they contact you?
You can easily go visit at roundhouseaquarium.org.
And that is spelled ROUNDHOUSEAQUARIUM.org. They'll find out about the many different talks that you provide, like one of your upcoming ones, Why Do Dolphins Surf? You have them at the aquarium, at libraries, elsewhere. They can find out about volunteering. We only have a few seconds remaining, and I know you have so many other stories. You'll have to come back. Tell us more about your studies. Give us an update. What are some of the other projects that people can be involved with?
We have a great volunteer program here, and the volunteer program, you'll be interacting with the public. Not only are you going to be interacting with the public, you can actually learn what's inside our oceans, what's inside the tide pools. You can help with the dolphin project. There's a lot of things that go on with that, like photo identification. That means like who is who out there. We have outreach programs. We have things called SLS, Service Learning Students, and you actually get to go put your hands in tanks or help out by teaching classes. There's so many things that you can actually do at the Roundhouse Aquarium.
It's a wonderful place. You do great work. I want to thank you so very much for loving the marine life and sharing what you are finding out about them with the rest of us. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I have been speaking with Eric Martin, who is the head aquarist at the Roundhouse Aquarium in Manhattan Beach, California. California. I'm Nancy Pearlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Pearlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.